Hey everybody, it's me again. Nobody knows. And today I have another witness for you. It's Joseph of Arimathea. Now, Nicodemus mentions Joseph in his witness, but the odd thing is Joseph didn't talk about his full experience with Christ with the Hebrews, Gamaliel, and those leaders that had crucified Jesus. I could only imagine, what they their intentions, their motives was deceptive. So he didn't even go into in-depth detail with them about his experience when Jesus took him out of the prison. But he goes into that detail in his version. So it's exciting. And if you're at this point, I'm hoping that you guys were looking or will be looking for these different testimonies to come out because they really do feed your spirit and build your faith up. So God bless the hearers and enjoy. This is the witness of Joseph of Arimathea. I am Joseph of Arimathea, who begged from Pilate the body of the Lord Jesus for burial, and who for this cause was kept closed in prison by the murderous and God-fighting Jews, who also, keeping to the law, have by Moses himself become partakers in tribulation, and having provoked their lawgiver to anger, and not knowing that he was God, crucified him, and made him manifest to those that knew God. In those days in which they condemned the Son of God to be crucified, 7 days before Christ suffered, two condemned robbers were sent from Jericho to the procurator Pilate, and their case was as follows. The first, his name Justus, put travelers to death, murdering them with the sword, and others he exposed naked. And he hung up women by the heels, head down, and cut off their breasts, and drank the blood of infant limbs. Never having known God, not obeying the laws, being violent from the beginning, and doing such deeds. And the case of the other was as follows. He was called Demas, and was by birth a Galilean, and kept an inn. He made a tax upon the rich, but was good to the poor, a thief like Tobit, for he buried the bodies of the poor. And he set his hand to robbing the multitude of the Jews, and stole the law itself in Jerusalem, and stripped naked the daughter of Caiaphas, who was the priestess of the sanctuary, and took away from its place the mysterious deposit itself placed there by Solomon. Such were his doings. And Jesus also was taken on the third day before the Passover, in the evening. And to Caiaphas and the multitude of the Jews it was not a Passover, but it was a great mourning to them, on account of the plundering of the sanctuary by the robber. And they summoned Judas Iscariot, and spoke to him, for he was son of the brother of Caiaphas the priest. He was not a disciple before the face of Jesus, but all the multitude of the Jews craftily supported him, that he might follow Jesus, not that he might be obedient to the miracles done by him, nor that he might confess him, but that he might betray him to them, wishing to catch up some lying word of him, giving him gifts for such brave, honest conduct to the amount of a half shekel of gold each day. And he did this for 2 years with Jesus, as says one of his disciples called John. And on the third day, before Jesus was laid hold of, Judas says to the Jews, Come, let us hold a council, for perhaps it was not the robber that stole the law, but Jesus himself, and I accuse him. And when these words had been spoken, Nicodemus, who kept the keys of the sanctuary, came in to us, and said to all, "Do not do such a deed." For Nicodemus was true, more than all the multitudes of the Jews. And the daughter of Caiaphas, Sarah by name, cried out and said, "He himself said before all against this holy place, I am able to destroy this temple and in 3 days to raise it." The Jews say to her, "Thou hast credit with all of us," for they regarded her as a prophetess. And assuredly, after the council had been held, Jesus was laid hold of. And on the following day, the 4th day of the week, they brought him at the 9th hour into the hall of Caiaphas. And Annas and Caiaphas say to him, "Tell us, why hast thou stolen our law, and renounced the ordinance of Moses and the prophets?" And Jesus answered nothing. And again a second time, the multitude also being present, they say to him, "The sanctuary which Solomon built in 46 years, why dost thou wish to destroy in one moment?" And to these things Jesus answered nothing. For the sanctuary of the synagogue had been plundered by the robbers. And the evening of the 4th day being ended, all the multitude sought to burn the daughter of Caiaphas, on account of the loss of the law, for they did not know how they were to keep the Passover. And she said to them, "Wait, my children, and let us destroy this Jesus, and the law will be found, and the holy feast will be fully accomplished." And secretly Annas and Caiaphas gave considerable money to Judas Iscariot, saying, "Say as thou saidst to us before, I know that the law has been stolen by Jesus, that the accusation may be turned against him, and not against this maiden, who is free from blame." And Judas, having received this command, said to them, "Let not all the multitude know that I have been instructed by you to do this against Jesus, but release Jesus, and I persuade the multitude that it is so." And craftily they released Jesus. And Judas, going into the sanctuary at the dawn of the 5th day, says to all the people, "What will you give me, and I will give up to you the overthrower of the law, and the plunderer of the prophets?" The Jews say to him, "If thou wilt give him up to us, we will give thee 30 pieces of gold." And the people did not know that Judas was speaking about Jesus, for many of them confessed that he was the Son of God. And Judas received the 30 pieces of gold. And going out at the 4th hour and at the 5th, he finds Jesus walking in the street. And as evening was coming on, Judas says to the Jews, "Give me the aid of soldiers with swords and staffs, and I will give him up to you." They therefore gave him officers for the purpose of seizing him. And as they were going along, Judas says to them, "Lay hold of the man whom I shall kiss, for he has stolen the law and the prophets." Going up to Jesus, therefore, he kissed him, saying, "Hail, Rabbi," it being the evening of the 5th day. And having laid hold of him, they gave him up to Caiaphas and the chief priests. Judas saying, "This is he who stole the law and the prophets." And the Jews gave Jesus an unjust trial, saying, "Why hast thou done these things?" And he answered nothing. And Nicodemus and I Joseph, seeing the seat of the plagues, stood off from them, not wishing to perish along with the counsel of the ungodly. Having therefore done many and dreadful things against Jesus that night, they gave him up to Pilate the procurator at the dawn of the preparation, that he might crucify him, and for this purpose they all came together. After a trial, therefore, Pilate the procurator ordered him to be nailed to the cross along with the 2 robbers. And they were nailed up along with Jesus, Justus on the left and Demas on the right. And he that was on the left began to cry out, saying to Jesus, "See how many evil deeds I have done in the earth, and if I had known that thou wast the king, I should have cut off thee also." And why dost thou call thyself Son of God, and canst not help thyself in necessity? How can thou afford it to another one praying for help? If thou art the Christ, come down from the cross, that I may believe in thee. But now I see thee perishing along with me, not like a man, but like a wild beast. And many other things he began to say against Jesus, blaspheming and gnashing his teeth upon him. And many other things he began to say against Jesus, blaspheming and gnashing his teeth upon him. For the robber was taken alive in the snare of the devil.